So times are evolving. The taboo about men, not talking about their struggles or not showing emotions is changing. Men no longer need to struggle in silence. As a society, our consciousness is changing, and this means that the way we think about men and mental health is also evolving. And it means that we're now going down the path of vulnerability being courage. And that means that you have to have vulnerability in order to have courage. It means that you need to be open and transparent about what you're struggling with in order to get support for it. And that means you have to show immense courage to initially do that. Now, this is really important considering the stats on men's mental health. So at present still, suicide is the leading cause of death between men of the ages of 15 and 44 years of age. So it's really important that our mindset around this changes so that men feel more comfortable to talk about their struggles and feel like they can be vulnerable and have the courage to do so. In terms of research, it's showing that 1 in 3 FIFO workers experience a high level of psychological distress. It's also shown that they have much higher rates of anxiety and depression, as well as incidents of bullying occurring and burnout. So not looking good across the board. Research also indicates that common coping mechanisms for FIFO workers are the misuse of alcohol and other drugs, which is only then perpetuating their struggles to continue. As we know, alcohol and other drugs will alter an individual's cognitive functioning, and yes, it might help them escape their feelings for a couple of hours, but in the long term it's dragging them down. So it's going to increase their signs and symptoms of anxiety, it's going to increase depression. Alcohol at the end of the day is a depressant. This highlights why it's so important for FIFO workers to work on their mental health by engaging in self-care strategies and positive mental health strategies. And that's very different for everyone. That could be, having a sense of community. So connecting with your peers, connecting with your colleagues, connecting with friends and family, so that you feel like you've got that sense of community, that you're a part of the bigger picture. It could be your faith, whether that be religion, whether that be you're more spiritually minded, any of the above. Just again, having that connection to something greater than yourself. For some people, self-care strategies can look very different. It could be, I've got clients that go axe throwing, and that's a way of releasing their tension. They throw axes at bullseyes. Great way. It could be for other people, meditation. It could be going for a run. It could be boxing. It's just whatever you relate to, but making sure you're engaging in it frequently so that it's having a positive impact on your mindset. Remember, prevention is better than the cure. So find what self-care strategies work for you and engage in them regularly. At the moment, I've actually got several FIFO workers as clients, and I find in terms of commonalities of struggles, obviously there's a higher rate of having suicidal thoughts and relationship problems. I think both are obviously occurring as there's that sense of isolation and a sense of one feeling lonely or feeling like they are alone or feeling isolated because when they're away for longer periods of time, they don't have that support that they feel is necessary for them, and therefore they lose that sense of connection to community. I typically find that a lot of the FIFO clients that come in, there's maybe hesitation in the past to go to things like talking therapies as they don't want to bring up all the struggles from their past. So I find that in coming to see us, because we offer that different style of a modality in terms of mental health, they don't feel the pressure, they don't feel the need to have to bring up all of their past problems and issues. They can kind of give us a quick snapshot of what's been occurring for them, and we're still able to, with the technique, we're still able to get them successful results. So another way that we're successful with them is that we can offer phone sessions or virtual sessions, which is really handy for them. So it means that they're not going to miss out on their sessions while they're away, as we can connect with them virtually or over the phones while they're on site. So a great way that we can support our FIFO clients while they're on site is through our membership site. And soon to be an app actually, which is really exciting news. So it means that they can create their own personalised playlist, and they can put the audios that are relevant to their struggles into the playlist and listen to that playlist nightly. So they're actually developing their brain continually while they sleep each night. It helps them to maintain the results that we help them achieve in session. It allows them to support their brain in between the sessions and while they're away on site. It also helps to continue building resilience. This is key because in terms of longevity, once they finish their sessions over the phone or in spa. It means that they continue to listen to those audios each night, and that will give them longevity of results. In terms of FIFO worker struggles, I find that depression, anxiety and anger are probably the most common things that I see clients for. In regards to anxiety, it's very, very common in this day and age. And we've got to think of it almost like there's two different realities. There's the real world that we live in, and then there's that internal reality. And everyone's internal reality is slightly different, and that's where they have those thoughts and thinking that's going on, and typically it means that they start to perceive threats. So it doesn't have to be, the original human being and a hunter being chased by a lion. It could be your brain and your mind perceiving an internal threat, which could be to do with a relationship issue, it could be to do with a work problem, it could be to do with family politics, and it's that perceived that still triggers your brain into that sense of fear, and most anxiety is fear-based. So it's important to remember that your brain is unable to distinguish the difference between a real threat in the external world and a perceived threat in the mind. Either way, your brain still acts in accordance to that threat being real. So in regards to the work that we do, the technique is able to help take away that fear-based thinking and the prevention of stories in the individual's internal reality, which then prevents the individual from going into that survival or crisis mode. And that in turn, in their internal reality, means that they stay calm and peaceful more often than not. In regards to anger, I've actually seen quite a few males and females in regards to struggling with anger, and I think it's important to recognise that we all experience a spectrum of emotions, but what's more important than that is being able to control those emotions. So typically I find individuals saying that they may have said or behaved in a way that they don't necessarily relate to who they are, but they just can control themselves in that moment in time. And that's typically so because their emotional brain takes over and they're not acting in a very rational way. So what we're able to do with our emotional empowerment program is we stabilise the emotional foundations of the brain, which then helps the individual to effectively manage their emotions, and it stops them from going from 0 to 100. In regards to depression, obviously a very common thing that we see coming through. Also interesting to know that it can be a genetic thing that comes through, which is hereditary. We refer to that as an individual's negative bias, which is generally made up of their negative thoughts, negative thinking and attitudes. So I think it's important to remember that if you break a thought down, it becomes a vibration, and if you break the vibration down, it becomes essentially a form of energy. And which essentially means if your brain is being nourished by negative thoughts and thinking, it means your brain is being nourished by negative energy. Now the brain nourishes itself about 80% by its own energy and 20% via food. So if your brain is nourishing itself mostly by negative thoughts and thinking, it's going to be pulling you down to that heavier, low frequencies and vibrations. And you've got to remember, at our most basic level, we're nothing but signals, frequencies and energy, and that's essentially proven by science and quantum physics. So anything you do, whether it be what you're eating, your thoughts that are going on in your eternal reality, are either pulling you down in terms of your frequencies or pulling you up. So it generally takes us about 4 or 5 weeks to really eliminate depression for most of our clients, which is really wonderful, and that's by stopping the creation of those negative thoughts and thinking to begin with, which then helps them to automatically just have more positive thoughts and thinking. Now, in order to do all of these wonderful things and to help our individuals get into recovery for their struggles, it's very important that we use our technique, the Brain Wellness Spa technique. And essentially, it's the technique that targets the individual's unconscious brain to alter their conscious thinking. So their current conscious thinking, feelings, behaviour, and the way that they perceive the world. Now, the technique is essentially delivered through perceived or unperceived auditory stimuli, which essentially, in layman's terms, means we will be reading instructions to your brain. Now, those instructions are made of specially formulated words as well as codes or numbers, which many people refer to as harmonic codes. It's the technique that taps into the telepathic nature of the brain and the body. Now, not telepathic as in reading your mind, but as in telepathic as in working off those frequencies, signals, vibrations and energy at a quantum subatomic level. And it's the magic of the technique and being able to do that we're able to get effective long-term change very quickly for the majority of our clients. Is natural and drug-free, and we get results. We don't get it right every single time, but we get it right most of the time. And we're talking about, on average, not just a positive change, we're talking an 80 to 90% improvement. And we know this because we will track and measure our clients the entire way through their journey with us, and we find that if they're not reaching certain reductions along the way, then we'll be transparent with them about that, and we will change up their protocol in terms of what we're doing with them, because it's in our best interest, as well as the client's best interests to make sure and get the most successful result we can.